everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. Looking at an XL-123. I picked this up from a gentleman out of Crescent City. He had business here in Medford and was actually able to drop this off for me. So he said it was a good runner when he used it last about 6 years ago. I've gone through the carb and cleaned some stuff up. Haven't had to do a whole lot, put a new fuel hose in it. That might be the highlight. But after, I kind of got everything cleaned up and was ready to run it, it was acting funny. Now we'll see if it still does it. It's an indication of a points issue, and I want to try and document this. That just ran out of fuel. Okay. See if I can get it to idle. May not be able to. Hear how it's popping and banging? And you can see all the smoke. That wasn't the best demonstration, but I'm virtually certain that either some moisture got into the points box or there's some crap on the points. Because I am very comfortable. Famous last words, right? But I'm comfortable that I got the carb taken care of. Like I say, other than just replacing the fuel inlet screen, it wasn't in bad shape at all. So let's go ahead and get the flywheel off of this and take a peek. I tried to be real careful hosing things off, but it's possible that when I was spraying from the other side that some water got back here. It's also possible the points are just dirty from natural occurrence, or they're out of, they're worn, out of gap, whatever. It does happen, and some of those ignition problems can be a pain to track down because they'll mimic things that a bad carb will do. You can end up on a wild goose chase that lasts quite some time and get you nowhere. The less classy side of me would say pissing in the wind. You get the idea. Okay. That's the old Tapperoogie. Going to be a pain. I don't want to go too much tighter. There we go. Oh man, she's filthy under here. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm right, but it supports my thought. And with that much trash, I'm going to end up cleaning this out some more anyway, because that's just a heat sink. That's going to hold heat into the engine, accumulate more garbage, and that's how a saw can get destroyed. You let that stuff build up, the air passages, nothing will go through. Not a good thing. But let's go ahead and pull this points box off. And if there's indications of anything wet under here, I'll declare so-called victory straight up. Because I'm not seeing these leads coming off the coil. If one of those was bad, that could be another possibility. But everything looks good there. And it's possible the switch is bad, but I'll be honest, I can count on one hand the number of switches that have been truly bad that I've come across. It's one of those things that when it is the case, it can be hidden enough that it drives you nuts trying to find it. Now, there is absolutely no moisture in here at all. Not a bit, so I was careful enough to keep it out. Now, I don't know. I'm going to put this back on so that I can clean the rest of this trash out and not completely contaminate that. What I'm going to end up doing is filing the points. And I will go to the computer and look at the old service manual and see if the condenser is within capacitance. If I can find a value for it. If I can't, I'll use a value for the closest I can find, which would be a Super XL or something like that, because they're all very similar here. But anyway, I'm going to get some of this cleaned up and we'll come back. Okay, everything cleaned out here, dried out. I went ahead and just lightly cleaned the points using the sandpaper drag method. I know some don't like that. I find it works. What I do as a finish is get out some good CRC electric cleaner, like for, connectors and such, and I'll spray this out and blow it clean. I find that to work most of the time. Really screwed up points you might need to file. These have very little wear. According to the shop manual, the capacitance should be somewhere between 0.16 and 0.20 microfarads. Probably not pronouncing that right, but... Okay, dummy, did you... Oh, well, now that's interesting. Did I not? No, that's... Wow. In reality, I probably should take the damn thing off, but I'll open the points. Huh. That's also part of the problem. These points aren't gapped properly. Wow, but I am not getting a proper reading on this condenser. What the hell's going on around here? It can't be totally shot or it wouldn't have fired up. Try a new condenser here and see if... Alright. So that one's reading. In fact, that's not similar. Doesn't have the soldered on bracket that one needs. Well, maybe I'm an idiot and this thing absolutely has to be uninstalled to test, but I don't believe that to be true. Wow. I can't get a reading off of this. Well, this might end up being one of those long, dumb videos where you guys go, huh, you should have done that from the beginning. And maybe I should have. We're going to take... Oh, don't you do that to me. I don't like it when point screws get jammed down in the engine. I'm going to take everything out here. And this may come to an unceremonious end if I don't have a condenser in stock, and that's what turns out to be the problem here. With the points open, I don't see why I wouldn't be able to get a reading off of it. But maybe that's right. And I do see what I this is going to be a pain in the ass. Don't want to disturb that wire, but I guess I'm going to have to. I forgot that these condensers use 2 screws to mount. And naturally, those little brackets are in an inopportune location. At least on this side. Alright. In theory, we should be able to get this up enough to... There we go. Pry that block out. That was a little more animated than I necessarily wanted. Right, now that's not touching anything. I'll just get it out and do it right. I'm failing to understand. Alright, that's not touching a damn thing. So let's attempt this measurement yet again. Okay, so it did matter on whether it was installed in the saw, or at least hooked up. Alright, so that's 21. That's just ever so slightly out of range. In my experience, that's not uncommon. Now, am I going to kick my own butt for not doing something if it doesn't run right when I get it back together? Yeah, you better believe it. But I'm going to take that gamble. Since this is not a customer saw, I can afford to waste a little time. Not that I have oodles of spare time, but in this case, I'm not going to replace a part I'm not convinced needs replaced. So I'm going to put that back in, tighten this back down. Some of these have a nut, some don't. And I'm talking about Homelites in general. This does not. This is just threading into a nylon chunk. So you don't want to strip the thing out. Just get it tight. And then there's the groove right there that this is going to drop into. Now, obviously, I did not get that seated properly, because it came out. You're back with no kids? Okay. Grandma's watching the kids. So we get a quiet evening to ourselves. So if you think that's going to affect the output on the channel, you're probably right. But that's okay. I don't know why I've all of a sudden become incapable of seating a wire properly here. This saw, this family of saws, starting with the 101 to the, god damn it, to the 123, and then of course in Canada they carried on as the 76 and the XL-130 and all that, were meant to be a fairly early replacement for the Super XL automatic. This design very much mirrors the Super EZ. It's just bigger. Same piston as a Super XL automatic, or in the case of an XL-101, same piston as an XL-12. So the displacements were the same, but this was supposed to be just a better design that was more stable and allegedly better RPMs. Now I dispute that just a smidge. I don't subscribe to the fact that they have that much better performance. Do they lend better to the porting that some of the guys are doing? Yeah, that I buy. But straight off the shelf, I can see I'm going to have to do a comparo and prove to myself that this design is that much better. I am jaded because I grew up on the Super XL automatics like so many other people did. But I'm willing to learn and adapt my thinking within reason. But what I really want right now is to see this thing run properly, having cleaned those points. And I don't think the condenser is far enough out of range to be a problem at all. But we'll find out. And then I think I will break and go have some lunch. It's actually well past lunchtime. Alright, that's back in place. Thankfully the screwdriver has a slight magnetism to it. Helps in this case. Now I'm not joking, this thing, the points were barely opening at the top of the lobe. So that could have been a majority of the problem too. Alright, there we go. Top of the lobe. That's close. Just for grins, we'll do it the right way this time. .015, that's the one with everything worn off, because it's one I use the most. Right there. Looks good. Move. Nope, we're good. Okay. Alright, gotta get this to reform. That wire has to sit down in its little groove, and you gotta get it there without damaging it. And there should be a cutout right there. There we go. When everything is aligned right, these screws will drop into place without any hassle whatsoever. If they're fighting you, stop and figure out why. Okay. Something look right there. Make sure I don't cross thread that nut. There we go. Nah, even though I said that, I'm not convinced it didn't. There she goes. Well, those lock nuts are finicky. Okay. Good and tight. Get the starter back on and see if we've cured its issues. I'm actually going to be surprised if we didn't. I've run across this a number of times. It's so easy to dive back into the carb thinking, oh man, I screwed something up there. And sometimes that is the case. I mean, we all make mistakes. Okay, let's move you guys back. Take two. There is still something going on here. Well, that's ignition. There is no question in my mind that that is an ignition problem. So whether it's that switch or something else, I don't know. That's interesting. I am certain that is an intermittent spark. But what is causing it? Now, I've got to keep that out of the way if we're going to test this. God, that lead is such a pain. Alright. Stupid thing. It's not flexible enough to wrap around anything, keep it out of the way, and it's soldered to the coil for whatever reason. And I don't want to screw that up. Okay, I'll leave that one out because it's hard to get to. See if no switch wire makes a difference. I don't think it did. Nope. Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I hate to just start replacing parts, but something is not right here, and that is definitely ignition. That's not fuel. Alright, hopefully this used coil I found in my stock of junk will be worth a damn. I've got the old one out. This one's been modified slightly. See how the points connector wire is supposed to be crimped down here. Somebody went ahead and removed that and tied it into the kill switch. That's okay, they share the same terminal. But I'm going to go ahead and take the time to convert this back the way it's supposed to be. The first thing we'll do is see if we can get lucky and get this loose without taking all this crap out again. Since that wire slides in from the side, if I can, yep, nice. There we go. Notice this wire guard, that's got to go back in place. So I still need my kill switch lead, which is still crimped in there pretty well. You know, this could be part of the problem. Oh, you see how easily that broke? I guess I was out of frame. That could have been part of the problem. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Coil's damaged. I don't know if it got hot or what, but you can see that's actually opened up. That's not good. That's interesting. Very interesting. Alright, so we need to get the lamination out of this one. We'll see how much of a pain this turns into. Sometimes these come right out. Other times you got to get them over to the vise to do a little persuasion. I prefer the non-persuasion, but we'll see. This looks like that has 2 retainers on it. It's a little abnormal if it does. What do I want to push this with? I'll start with this. Again, if it's not too tight, oh no, I need to persuade it. Definitely, I'm going to be persuading it. Let's see. That probably went too high, but nope, that's good. What you want to do, if you've got to go this route, open your vise up just enough. It's sitting on the surface of the coil. You're not bending any terminals. And right on top of the lamination, you have a couple love taps. Okay, before it comes all the way out, I want to make sure. Okay, so that was just a buildup of sawdust and trash. Looks like there's just one retainer tensioner, whatever you want to call it, clip right there. But you don't want that to drop out. Now it's bent over right here to hold in place. Just keep an eye out. Okay, that's almost out. It is out. There we go. So then, you can see that little retainer comes right out. Go ahead and unscrew my spark plug wire because I am using that again. That coil is going where it belongs. Now you want to make sure that you kept a note in your mind of how this goes back together. Wire at the bottom. You can see the ground lead, the threads for it, which means that's also where this retainer has to go. And this can be a little tricky. Now I was able to get it to slide in with the edge up so it'll actually grip. In terms of driving this into place without that slipping out, okay, see, that slipped right on. That was nice. That's what I like. And once it aligns so you can get the screws started, you're done. So that's good. That wasn't as big of a hassle as it could have been. Go ahead and get that ground screw back in. Now this, from sitting in the box, this is a little bit goobered up. Come on. This is one of those instances where if you're not familiar with these, before you press that lamination out, take a picture, maybe a couple, just so that you get everything back where it belongs. Because that can be horribly frustrating trying to figure that out if you just don't remember how it should be. And there's really only one way it can go in here. like every other coil, these for this series are getting harder to find too. So you don't want to waste them. If you have a good used one and you work on or run a bunch of these saws, it'd be worth holding on to one. Screw our spark plug wire back in. Okay, that's about the way it, yeah, we're looking good. Do a little quick test fit here. That all looks great. So while it's, get my insulation off there, we don't need that anymore. Well, it's easy to do with it loose. I'm going to go ahead and plug that back in. You can reach it with needle nose pliers, but I'm not going to say that it's fun. Okay, so that wiring routes under the coil, over the post, and then drops down in. And that little cylinder shield, wire shield, whatever you want to call it, that I told you to save, goes right there. Now, in all likelihood, what we're going to do here is get this bloody wire started. Go behind the condenser lead, but in front of the point strap. If I can make my fingers and this do what I want it to do. Which so far, it's a case of, gee, it comes out awful easy. Sure doesn't go back in awful easy. There she goes. Okay, so you're going to have to hold that in place. And however many turns you loosen that screw up, you get it tight again. Okay. I was doing more pushing on it than I was actual tightening, just so that it wouldn't round off. So then you need to route this wire through its opening here under the tab. See, that sumbitch likes to pop off. Okay, that should be it. Now we are ready to remount this coil. If I'm remembering right, I saved this coil from customers saw that I had a hell of a time figuring out an ignition issue on. And finally, I think I ended up deciding that it was a defect in the ignition backplate, or just plain wear. That seemed to solve it. I think occasionally the points were catching and not opening and closing because the recess, the hole for them, was kind of oblonged. That took quite a few little experiments to figure that damn mess out. Okay. That all looks pretty good. Drop this flywheel on. And get the terminal back on the spark plug wire. And we'll just do a test with the drill before assembling anything else. Okay, moment of truth. Fingers crossed. Okay, you guys can see that, I can see that. Alright. Less consistent than I'd like to see. But I know what it'll look like on a spark plug. Hell, we know what this looked like before that. So it's possible that this coil is starting to get old. I don't know. Well, I mean, we know it's old, but I want to see if it'll run the way it's supposed to. I think it will. Because we couldn't get it to spark at all with that other coil. Not on the proper tester. Okay, move you guys back. Like I say, keep your fingers crossed, folks. I'd like to have this one solved. Wow. Doing exactly the same thing it did before. Hold on a minute. Well, by accident I've got it gapped right. But that's not very tight. No, I don't. What a dipshit. How about getting ahead of yourself? I still don't think it's right, though. We'll see. I think it's doing the same thing still. And with it being so intermittent like that, I have to think there's something in the points, if that turns out to be the case, but damn, I sure don't know what. Now, with all the video segments we've got on this thing, I have a feeling a lot of this is going to be running in fast forward. Definitely one of the bigger challenges I've had recently. Oh, what are the odds? No. That's even worse now. Wow. Okay. I feel like I've said this too many times, but back to the drawing board. Okay, so finally, as you can see, finally, this dirty thing is running right. Had all kinds of funny little issues. The ignition problem did turn out to be this condenser. Once I swapped that out, it quit the popping and banging. But then she was flooding like you would not believe. And what that ended up being was the low-speed Welch plug actually managed to work its way loose. So there was no metering at all. Those 3 holes into the venturi of the carburetor were just sucking fuel at whatever rate the engine would suck it. So, oddball stuff, but the ignition problem was definitely this condenser. It now produces clean, good spark on the tester all the way around. It'll run on the saw. I think we finally have got this thing figured out. So what an adventure that has been.